All right.
From the 10th of the second month of 1441, 3, the Empress reversed blows away with her overturned tent. Knight of Cups reversed pours out for the animals of sea and air till all is spent. 10 of Staves is weighed down with a burden that leaves him bent. 3 of Swords is a resting pair, where the man is about to be rent. 4, the Emperor is a soul listening to the worldly. 3 of Cups may open for an abundant opportunity that's girly. Mere powers of fools, but it may be the matriarchy's only possibility. Divine providence, let's go, all stormy. Many boons would leave some too greedy. Secrets are important, but don't slip into complacency. Patriarchy can face the challenges while adhering to the principles called for by its own authority. Dizzy restraint. Righteousness is how we are intoxicated by mere antiquity. And I am here with Lzwvmmh znz. And
that's me, baby.
what are your initial thoughts on this 10th poem of this 15-part series?
Very interesting as usual. It's always good for a person like me who has always been curious about divination and such things. I think by the different cards you mentioned, the Emperor one stood out for me. I would like to definitely know more about that one as we go along, because that is what that definition of emperor. That's a very earthly thing, to be an emperor. It's like very materialistic, earthly thing. And you said something about listening to the worldly kind of thing there. I found that very interesting. But okay, yeah, that's the emperor card. Yeah.
Okay, I think I had 2 lines there. So what's that? So is that patriarchy can face challenges while adhering to the principles called for by its own authority. So we have 2 things. One thing we talked about earlier off the thing that I can hint at here, and I
what can we see on that one?
So here's the Emperor card is what's on the screen here.
All right.
But the you have the book. You were saying, you don't need to reveal book. There's the book of nature and the book of yourself. So there's thought to be 3 types of books. There's one book from the spiritual world, or one type of book from the spiritual world, the book of external nature and the book of yourself. So what I said about this card refers to the external and the book of oneself. Because honestly, it's like some of the drawings that I've done of this card, like I gave my mother one. And the one I gave my mother sort of represents this, very explicitly mentions the spiritual books. But the spiritual books are something that you respond to because of yourself. If you deny yourself, if you deny the external nature, like Christianity in teaching to take off the natural man, then you run into some problems that,
Wow. So that's where your 666 video would come back to, the natural man, right?
Yeah, because, your own personal vehicle, not it's not systems. life's not some computer simulation for God to play games with. It's like Avatar. Avatar means sent one. It doesn't mean that God it doesn't mean that God creates a character to incarnate in and then another character to incarnate. That's not what really Avatar is about.
Okay.
But the getting fanatical and worshiping the various spiritual teachers in India has ruined the general perception of the term. But at its root, it's like the word for profit. But they come with something, but they're not like, God doesn't create a character to operate, and you're supposed to secretly figure out that he's really God and the other ones aren't God.
That's like very interesting. Wow.
Yeah, you got to be true to yourself. One's got to be true to oneself and one's thing.
Wow.
That's what I was saying about the philosophy. It's like, and you can't do this philosophy where you just quote people. It's not, no matter how good the philosopher is, you got to do more than just quote somebody. And what I was saying about
I think it was Oscar Wilde. He said most people's lives are a mimicry. Their passions are quotation, right?
Is Oscar Wilde the guy who wrote My Wicked, Wicked Ways?
I haven't read any of his books, but that quote that stood out for me, because that's true to many religious people and Satanists alike. Is that they're like parrots, like quoting. You know, it's not even their own. But I guess you are not part of that group. I can say that.
One has to be authentic with it. It's like, it's like
exactly.
You've mentioned the Sufis.
Oh yeah, that goes with it, like the natural man, the authentic man, right?
It's like there are two things. Although they're mainstream with Islam, and Sufis tend to be the only ones who have them. You show up. If you show up at a mosque for dawn prayer, they're supposed to be able to talk and discuss and interpret dreams for you. You shouldn't have to spend up to people spend $250 an hour for a psychologist, but part of it's because of the if everywhere with the Muslim population could just wander into the mosque and they do your dreams for you and save you the money as psychologists.
Exactly.
Not only would more people probably be Muslim, but you wouldn't have to have this fragmentation.
Yeah,
it's like
so
Buddhism they usually despiritualize Buddhism. Buddhism, I think Buddha believed in stuff, but Buddha wasn't like it's hard to say some of the stuff, but there's different Buddhas and different people who made their way into the Buddhist story. Four people into one Buddha story and all that stuff is
exactly
not talked about in a nutshell. But but another teaching that's very aside from meeting and after the dawn prayers are said, discussing discussing dreams and stuff. I wish I think everywhere should have somewhere where every couple miles or something you can do that, but you can't. I don't know. You may have to go 1,000 miles in my country to find a masjid that does that. But another thing, another thing the Sufis probably are usually the only ones around that are going to say something about that, is the idea that
they're the real ones.
If you figure out a usage.
Wow.
It's not just you have this. It's not just you have this book with 6,000 something, 600,000. What did that video I did say? 6,175 verses, or 6,280. Eight verses. And I mean, something like that, depending on whether you count the Bismillahs or not. The ones that are.
I think it was Christ or Jesus who said that woe to the scribes and Pharisees, for they think they're saved by the scriptures and the words in the Bible, right? But he said that the Spirit lives in you, that the Comforter will come and teach you all things and bring all things into remembrance. That we're not supposed to read scripture like that. I
don't know if it says so, but you're supposed to have it living, not only as the living word.
The living word, exactly.
One, you got a person, if one's going to get something for something, you got to actually realize and believe and act out these things yourself. Realize and actualize for yourself, not just I pick a book, the book's on my shelf. It's like
Wow.
how many people, like right now, right now that it's not Ramadan anymore, how many your average
Whew.
person who identifies as Muslim is going to keep that
Yeah.
Quran on the shelf all year.
They're not following the Empress card, I must say.
They're going to keep that thing on the shelf all year long. But one of the things
Yeah.
that is taught there is that
Mhm.
somebody figures out, if you figure
Mhm.
out if you figure out a real way to apply any verse,
Mhm.
it's the credit of reading the whole thing. If you read the whole thing,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
or you can figure out. So figuring figure out how to use stuff as you go along.
Yeah,
So
that's the living way of doing it.
that's
Yeah.
why you write so many poems. And well, I mean,
Yeah.
I did that poem series that I released not this
Mhm.
Wednesday, but last Wednesday.
Mhm.
So maybe I figured out something, or maybe someone could use that or something. But
Yeah. Wow.
going, we didn't actually see what's on the card. So, okay.
Yeah, no, yeah. What's on the card, by the way?
I mean, we didn't discuss what's on the card. So we have the,
Mhm.
we have a king with his crown. He's on a rock, but he's below the fool. That's
Mhm.
that's an interesting thing. So instead of
Oh,
up
that's
above,
interesting.
the king is on lower ground than the fool.
He is?
Yeah,
Wow, interesting.
you see, you notice there that the guy's on lower ground than the fool. I
Yeah, you do. Yeah, yeah. And he has horns too. The fool, right? Or is that horns?
No, they're like those fluffy ears. Because
Okay.
I guess every other fool, it's more like a rabbit or a hare or something. Because if
Oh,
you notice from that page of Stave's card that we got cut off
yeah,
in the middle of discussing the other time, those ears,
yeah,
those
yeah,
pointed
right.
ears are almost the same as the rabbits, except the ears have
Wow,
bells.
that's.
And
I have 3 brown rabbits following me everywhere. Where in town where I live. Maybe I'm the fool then.
well, the full,
Yeah,
if the full card itself, I'm not sure if we got to
yeah,
that, or number
yeah.
15.
Mhm.
Program 15, we'll go over the whole we'll go over the whole deck when we get to program.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
the full, because that
The
poem
fool is higher, yeah.
reference it. The full is in the system and it's out of the system. So again, another thing that Sufis
Okay,
are probably the ones that tend to
interesting.
do it better is in the world but not of it. So it's that old
Okay,
Gnostic thing. It's that
yeah.
the world is corrupt if it's
Oh, yeah.
for
It's like,
itself. But
yeah.
if it's not for itself, you're using the
Mhm.
word. Gnosticism isn't
Yeah.
per
It's
se
like,
anti-cosmic.
yeah,
Gnosticism is the cosmos isn't it.
yeah.
It's a means for things.
Mhm.
And
Mm. Yeah.
and we
Wow.
have to pair with the
Yeah, it's a
emperor.
means for things, yeah. When
The
here we have,
the full in an emperor card instead of typically an emperor card has like sheep and rams and stuff. There's no sheep and rams in the here. It's the full.
oh, really?
So the wild and the tamed nature, I guess, is informed by the full.
The wild and the tame nature. Interesting.
But we have the Empress card here, and on this Empress
Mm-hmm.
card here,
Mm-hmm.
there's a chain. So they're trying
Oh,
to chain in the Empress.
okay. Interesting. Wow.
And
What
I don't
might
know.
that mean?
She's moving, so her nature can't be completely contained.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a tent,
Yeah.
so you could say she's defined by that. But
Mm-hmm.
there's still there's a partial mystery to it. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of moons like you get on some cards,
Yeah.
you have bunny ears off in the side here.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you have the full hats as the flag, and
Mm-hmm.
you may have noticed some of my things. I have a 3 flag. I explain flags, and
Mm-hmm.
so I have this meme that I use that has
Mm-hmm.
a green flag representing wholeness and peace and all that stuff is like the first step in the journey.
Mm-hmm.
You have the black
Yeah.
flag representing the striving and the change and stuff, because it's not that you just as with the book stuff, you don't just pick up a book and say, I claim this book to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Yeah.
You got to actualize. You got to realize maybe there's some things that should be changed. That's
Mm-hmm.
what black alchemy is all about. It's not. Now, I like punk.
Yeah.
I like some punk music. Some of it just goes
Yeah.
ridiculously far, just be ridiculously far. But
Yeah.
you're striving with a cause.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
It's like you could say it's known.
yeah.
It's known that not only will the people on the West Bank defeat the blue stripers that are causing this problem right now, they also have an enemy amongst a group that had that has real Semites among them, but they usually converted to something else. And the black flags that fly amongst them, it's not going to be some extremist. It's going to be an organization that comes in and strives and says, nope, we're done being ruled by priests. We're done being ruled by some rich dude on the hill that just wants to keep us down and whatnot.
Exactly.
So this is what they fear. My one poem wasn't talking about killing somebody because of their religion or whatever. It was talking about the one poem that I showed from that Wednesday mentioned two battles. One battle, some aggressors thought, we don't like your country. We don't want it existing such like this. They wanted to put an end to a community. So they came in with their armies and stuff like this, and they fought. But another group of people came out to fight when they showed that. But this group of people was the ones that stay behind the scenes that we have nowadays. They're the ones who order and finance the wars. The people who order and finance the wars. Well, no, they're the ones that, well, not really the middleman. They're the ones who the whole thing is about. So the other is the group that's been called forth to be the sheep to be slaughtered, and the other but the other group but they're aggressors and they're responsible for what they do. It's like one thing that's people don't like some of what my one family member has said, because soldiers are accountable for their actions. It's not that they just show up and whatever awful thing to do or whatever good thing to do, it doesn't really matter. They're just they're responsible for what they do, good or bad. It's their doing.
Exactly. Wow.
You're ordered to bomb a village. Because
and you do it.
And you just
exactly. Blindly useful idiots.
So you have an aggressing group that went out with their troops and stuff to fight and lost miserably, and another group that they came in and they by the way, they didn't destroy the local synagogue or make people change their religion or something like that. So that sort of things like that refute some of the misconceptions. But the Kareza and the Banu Nadir, what's the other tribe? But anyways, these were enemies to humanity that were dealt with. But my point with that poem was it was a lesson. It was a lesson. It was a lesson for nowadays. It's like, this is what the leaders fear. This is why this is why they're trying to make they're trying to make every religion sound the same, and they're not. Because they don't want the idea, because in Christianity, what does Christianity teach? Is that you believe, like I did in one of my September 11 videos, Christianity teaches that you believe and obey whatever the rulers want you to.
Yep, that's right.
And so that's a problem right there. And so in addition to that, so you don't want a philosophy. You don't want the ideology stripped out of it. A lot of people get ideas from mythology, and then it becomes ideology. But that doesn't mean the mythology is not good, something, or doesn't mean that it's bad just because it's an idea that doesn't have a spiritual connection.
Many people assume that.
It's ideology is what it is, whether it's whatever.
Exactly.
You got to judge it individually.
Exactly.
That's how the principles should be. It's like, if the Three of Swords, if you want a truce, like the Three of Swords card usually represents.
Three of Swords
are
interesting.
If there's oppression to deal with, or if there's a quest for the Holy Grail in your life, okay, what's the three?
Interesting.
But
Three of Swords, interesting. And what's the third sword up there?
Okay, well let me make sure it's positioned correctly. And so we have this guy, and he's there. One sword's nearby, and he's there lying in this woman's lap. It's that Samson story in the Bible that seems like something they just added in there for whatever. So it's the one sword. So is there only one sword here, and the other two blades are cutting his hair? So
yeah.
so instead of the three is the three is that left shoulder. So the left shoulder is the
yeah.
well, he's closer to her right shoulder.
Okay.
But the left shoulder is next to the arm that's holding him down. But the Samson story, you know the Samson story. Samson was a powerful man. He did all this stuff, and he kept letting this woman lie and trick him. It's just like, don't you love me? It's like, I may have tried to get you killed the other time, but I won't do it again, I swear. And
yeah.
Wow. So the guy keeps falling it. So the guy falls for it, what, 3 times, and then he rises to destroy the city.
Interesting.
Which is the cool part of the film, but it's not something to expect, right?
Yeah. It's also about discernment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
swords are discernment. You're using your thought, but this guy is not using his thought. It's being turned against him. He's letting himself be reasoned away from his reason, and he's losing his hair, and
reason away from his reason. I like that.
and the queen is the queen is the cutoff point. So the queen in all these tarot cards is like sitting on top of the hill, cutting off the head of cutting off the head. So Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Nama Om, and all that stuff. When you experience that chant, it's like your head's like floating. It's
okay.
At least that's what it's like for me. But I don't. For example, I can, if you understand a lot of these names, a lot of these modifications just slip away.
Yeah.
If you if you understand Christ as not being Jesus, but being a type of consciousness, because that's really what Christ and Messiah and Emmanuel and all that means. It doesn't. It's a role. It's a role.
Yeah.
It's not a particular being that's incarnated God. If you believe these words, it's not a God at all. Like if you understand Shiva,
didn't Jesus say,
and Krishna and Hanuman and a lot of these other names for these so-called deities, it turns out to be all the same God and all these personifications. Just like in ancient Egypt, if you read the hieroglyphs. If you read the hieroglyphs, not everybody believed that Thoth was the ibis-headed god. Not everybody believed this, that, or the other. These were just the symbolic ways of drawing them. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
And another cup card, but higher in the cups, because your right shoulder and your head and all that is the king card.
Oh, is that the king card?
So this guy is like on a lobster.
Yeah.
I've had lobster before. I think that crawdads are better than lobster, which is very fortunate because crawdads are 10th the price of lobster.
Oh.
Or something like that.
Okay.
So but this guy's on a lobster. That card. The Knight of Cups nowadays would be March or Aquarius. And but some people would say, oh, maybe this should be the midwinter card, which midwinter being the air and the eagle being air and the vulture being air, that just makes more sense. So a secret that is hidden in most tarot decks. This deck is just a 2-color deck. So we're gonna miss a lot of that stuff. But this guy said, the Pisces is the typical place where people picture queries in, because they're not up to date with astronomy. They're so dogmatic in their astrology that they can't figure out that the sun typically rises. The stars of Aquarius kind of stretch over March. The midsummer, in June, I mean, it's not exactly one month or the other, but if it's the age of Aquarius, okay, now the water signs are Aquarius and Gemini and Libra, and the fire signs. If June, when the sun is at its highest in the northern hemisphere, is Taurus, having that be the fire sign makes sense. Although in Russian and I think Mongol mythology, fire is the sign of the darkest time of year.
Oh.
And the brightest time of year is water.
Oh, interesting.
And Earth is the cooling and quarter, and the warming quarter is air. So
Okay.
other cultures tend to have different. So I have this oracle deck,
Oh.
this Russian oracle deck, and they have that symbolism. And it turns out the Mongolians and the other Hyperboreans and stuff kind of.
Oh, so you have to take that in consideration when looking at tarot cards, right? Like the cultural aspect. Yeah.
Well, there's this. You can put beliefs. I mean, one, I'm not. These. They're not amulets to me. They're not charms to me. I don't have some up in my window thinking it's going to give me powers of this sort for this time of year and that. Or on a table. I've had cards on a table and display for a day or a week or whatever, but it wasn't because I was like, it's doing something for me. I've got to use it. I've got to pull it out. Just like I said with the revealed scriptures or inspired scriptures, the ones that actually are. Now, most of that's just garbage in terms of that. Is that people get ideas. Now, maybe I shouldn't have put those in that terms, but in Christianity, you get the idea that the Bible was written because they thought it would be a good idea, not because God inspired anything. Is that Paul sat down and did philosophy, and therefore he wasn't inspired. He in that sort of way. In a sort of way, a prophet would be inspired. He got ideas. What would a good Christian be? Okay, here's 3 commandments. Oh, here's 18 commandments. Here's
exactly.
And you didn't know whether there was going to be contradiction or whatnot. So as it went along, but
exactly.
Of course, if you're not allowed to use philosophy, contradiction doesn't matter because you're not thinking for yourself anyways.
Exactly.
But the crawdad is usually the Pisces card. So this kind of has like a Pisces sort of attribute, doesn't it? That Pisces, Pisces has the crawdad and the moon and the howling at the moon. But here we have, the Knight of Cups. Usually a crab or a lobster or some other creature like that would be being held. In Crowley's deck, you have a knight on a horse, and the knight on the horse is carrying this cup that's carrying the crab of retreat. So again, there's an authenticity of your own. Oh, and is there water for this? I guess there's not water. This thing's on dry land. That's the forest. This thing's on dry land, so they got to be
okay.
So maybe the birds they're asking the guy, there's water over here. I know your crustacean that you rely on.
That's a good one
for it. But it's going to
That sounds plausible explanation of the picture.
But this guy's needy. See, he has the cup out, so the cup isn't filled. In other tarot decks, it's the accomplishment.
Oh, he's needy for the water, right?
Yeah. In other tarot decks, the knight cards are representing an accomplishment. So they have the supreme sword. They have the supreme wand. They have a source of abundant, overflowing water. They're just buried in things of plants and stuff of this earth. But in this card, the guy doesn't have it. So the cup card, there's no water around. He's holding out his vessel for the water. He doesn't have it. So the message is coming down. Hey, here you got some water. So he's in the quest. So
he's in the quest.
But this guy's weighed down by his quest. This 10 of God. This 10
and he's been guided. He's given signs.
Kind of like those the Ia Sebo illustration that has 12 heads. It turns out to be I was watching a lecture on the Gnostic Mass, the Aleister Crowley's weekly ritual and what the things mean. So, and they had this illustration of Ia Sebo as sort of a synchronistic idea of thinking all these sky fathers. And of course, the sky father is going to have 12 heads because of the 12 zodiacs, houses or something. This one, he only has 10, but this guy's weighed down. So a lot of times, if you make an extra trip, a lot of the 10 of staves cards is making a trip with the cards.
Okay.
I don't know if
Yeah,
you
go
can hear that
ahead.
thing,
Yeah,
this meeting, you know, it has to,
yeah.
it's probably doing that because there were legal complaints and they figured there'd be less issues with it, more obvious.
Okay.
So here's the guy, and he's carrying his, but usually multiple trips. So somebody oppressing themselves by doing too much at once.
Okay.
Like
Oh, yeah.
for example, like I just mentioned Ramadan, people who decide I'm not gonna study or really practice religion except for 1 month a year. And yeah, of course it's gonna be a super burden.
Yeah.
But if you do extra 1 month a year, that's a lot different than just all of a sudden I'm not eating during the day, or all of a sudden I am listening to scripture for 2 hours or saying it for 2 hours or something. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be this burden that you're not, you know, rather than finding the joy of it, you know, you've just, you know.
Yeah. I see a lot of that.
And honestly, it's better rather than the whole thing at once to maybe you pick up one and you take the whole year and you bring up the other. So 1 month you have one, another month you have another month another, or maybe you do it a couple times. So maybe you can do it twice easier than you can do it once. But
wow, interesting.
It's like when a person does retreats and all that stuff. I mean, you're willing to share whatever thoughts come to this.
Yeah, sure.
But because you know, that's sort of the point. That's why I'm not just doing this by myself and saying a poem and having it posted for a time, then moving on.
Okay. Yeah.
You got
it. Yeah. I mean.
But yeah, you take on what you can take on, and you know, rather than just trying to take on everything at once.
Sure.
It's like if you grocery shop and you're not some poor person who has to walk 2 miles to the grocery store, or 3, like some grocery stores. And that people are like, why don't you spend an hour on the bus? Why don't you spend an hour on the bus for the bus to take you and give them? It's like, well, I don't want the bus to have my money. I'd rather have the money for stuff. I'll walk down the street. And I'm still going to have to carry it home from the bus stop anyway. So, you know. So I'm going to just have more difficulty. But if you're not that, then you might like for example, I'm getting a ride to the one store to stock up for use my money to stock up on some food here, because certain shelves and stuff is getting empty. But it's like I'm thinking two things. I'm thinking like, you know, well, one, you have a card, but I'm thinking of actually paying in one lump, figuring out what I have, and then coming back with another lump. So instead of this burden all at once, I have 50 pounds of food to put away. You know, or 60 or whatever it is, because you know, I got. You know, I'm purchasing for multiple months with some stuff, but you know, it's going to be too much of a burden to just like, you know, try to carry it all on my back. There's going to be too much for that. But if I I don't even have that card anymore, so I guess we can move on from that.
Okay, sure. What was this card again?
So we have the 3 of Cups, 3 women at the door.
3 women, 3 of Cups.
It kind of reminds you of the Fate. You ever see those Fate statues? It's usually a naked woman, one naked woman forward, one naked woman to another side, one naked woman facing another side.
I've never seen a statue of that sort, actually. It's like it reminds me of I mean, I know Janus, the 2-headed god, but a 3-headed, that sounds like Hecate.
Well, there tends to be there's a 3-in-1 sort of thing. Most of the 3-in-1 myths are about the female god. So the Christians, what the Christians did with the Father, Son, Holy Ghost as an all-male Trinity, it usually was a female. But the female wasn't totally alone. There was some guy off to the side or something. But or maybe they were sometimes, you know, but Fate is sort of like a Janus head. You get this idea. And Fate or the Muses was typically depicted as a group of women.
Oh, it was? Interesting.
And so back in the day, women, if men cover their knees to their bottom belly, those same areas for a woman include their arms and their legs. So you see that sort of hinted at here. This
Yeah.
woman okay, instead of letting their clothes drag, to be double sure that they're completely modest all the time, while they're standing at the door, so they can lift their, they don't have to have things hanging down. But
Okay.
and that's why lifting the skirt was the thing. It meant that, you know, oh, I'm not being just taken along here. I'm willingly doing this. That's why the curtsy thing of lifting the skirt and bowing.
Okay.
It was sort of a immodest gesture at the same time as it meant other things too. But
Oh
so
yeah.
listing, so these women, I guess they're going to show up and they're going to sort of bemuse the person at the door and get some alms or something, or either in something to drink or whatever
Yeah.
with their cups.
Oh.
And they've gone a
Interesting.
distance there because obviously the rich guy's house is not buried amongst a bunch of other people's houses. That's one of the things about wealth there.
Yeah.
Is that you're so yeah, the Janus head kind of brings you to mind, but past, present, future.
Oh yeah.
And most cultures, it's like Christianity tries to separate the God of this of matter and time as into something else. But most cultures, whether they have that as the same God or whether they have that as a different God, it's something that you accept. So not reviling time and all that sort of stuff. Like, but Christianity says, you know, that doesn't want you to take the side of the God of this world in this age. But you live in this world in this age. What sense does that make? So the past, the present, the future. Any thoughts before we per se break and do maybe do another one, or?
Yeah, I mean, how many cards have we done so far?
Okay, how many cards this time? What do we start on? The Empress, the Three of Swords, the Knight of Cups, Ten of Staves, the Three of Cups. Oh, the Emperor. The Emperor is in a different order. So we have six cards this time.
Oh, how many cards